You look deep in thought.
Aha. I just I'm staring at a document that's 110 pages. Huh. And where did I put where did Zoom go? I don't know. Here we are. I went the wrong way.
Oh, yes. Ha! Here comes
the crowd.
AJ.
The sun's beautiful today, isn't it?
Wow. Where's AJ today?
Hey guys.
Where are you?
There's an issue with your Apple Music account. To resolve this, check that your account is up to date in the settings app.
I don't think that was me. I'm in Sedona, Arizona right now.
Oh my God.
A family vacation. Yeah. Kids have spring break this week. So yeah.
So you've invited us to join you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Here, I'll show you my I don't know if you can.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Pretty, I don't know if you can quite get that, but yeah, it's pretty spectacular. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? It's 4:30 there now?
It is 3:30.
3:30. Oh, it's 3 hours.
Mexico is 2 hours and you're 3 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and the weather's just been like lovely. I thought it might be, I don't know. I just associate Arizona with like hot, humid. It's been like so pleasant. Been doing long hikes every day. It's been great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's the time of year.
Yeah.
It's the perfect time of year.
Well, thank you for letting us join you.
Yeah, because
sure.
It'll be 110 in July, so.
Exactly.
So don't forget to come home.
Okay, right. I'll be back Thursday. Just in time for a Four Towns meeting. No.
Oh, that.
All right, let's see.
Now, did we ever, so are they talking about my Apple Music account?
I don't think I have one.
I don't have one.
I don't think I have one.
That was just a weird message. Yeah.
Maybe it was.
I'm not sure where it came from.
We've been hacked.
All right, let's see. I can't remember. I know Bob's got a bunch of traveling. Does anybody remember if he was planning on joining today?
I don't think so. I think he's in Sicily.
Right. Lovely. Okay.
He's not dialing in?
I know.
Hey, 6:30 would be past midnight.
1 o'clock,
Sicily.
right?
I remember Elaine Palayo coming to select board meetings when she was in Norway. Do you remember that? Like it was 2 a.m. It was like, it was nuts. Anyway.
All right. All right. So I'll call the FinCom to order. And I think we've got a few things to do tonight. One is do some meeting minute reviews. We also have, thanks to George, a draft annual report to discuss and finalize, perhaps vote on tonight. And then I think we've got a couple of meetings that I think it might be worth just doing a little prep discussion for. One being the Four Towns meeting on Saturday, the 20th, I think. Yeah. And then we have our budget information session. I can't remember the date on it. I've got it written down. It's not my usual computer. Does anybody have that, Andy?
Wednesday the 24th.
And by the way, I did reach out to Paul Lyons, and he did confirm that he's available to moderate that meeting as he's done the last couple of years.
Will that be 6:30?
I don't know if we set a time. I assume 6:30. Yeah, let's just stick with our usual time. Okay, is there anything I missed that we need to, I know that there's an expense report that Becky shared. I actually haven't had time to even look at it. I'm not sure if anybody else has. So maybe we can, I don't know if it's pressing, but might be better to hold off on that. Anything
Just
else
one-
that folks needed to cover?
Well, I just wanted to mention for the meetings that I'm going to be missing a few of them. I'm not going
Yeah.
to be in town on Saturday, so I'm not going to be able to attend before town meeting. And I am also not going to be able to attend annual town meeting this year. So I'm
Okay.
going to be traveling that weekend. That just popped up last week, so I apologize for that, but
Yeah, well, on that topic, I'm also not going to be able to make the annual town meeting. I'll be away also.
Okay. All right. So I think for annual town meeting, we're going to be missing George, Bob, and Jim. Walton, anybody else?
No.
Okay.
we'll have a quorum.
Yeah. And then for Four Towns meeting, we are missing, I think, Susie, George. I think Bob is going to be missing that. Is it? Anybody else?
I'm okay.
Okay. So we will have a quorum for the Four Towns meeting, which I think may be important because I think there is going to be some caucus opportunity. So I think that might, I don't know if we need to sort of vote on whether to, approve some compromise that emerges out of that meeting. It'll be, I think, good to have a quorum of our committee. At least I don't know about the select board and the school committee if they'll be
I know that,
attending and
I think the select board is attending, but Eric is out of town. So they'll have
Okay.
members. From what I know now, it could,
okay.
don't have confirmation from Melissa.
Okay, got it. Susie.
Just wanted to check with Becky. I know the information night on the 24th with Paul has other things going on. Is there, if we start at 6:30, is that going to work?
I didn't hear the end, Susie. Are you still there?
If we start at 6:30,
Yeah, I think, I know we try to start at 6, so I'm wondering if maybe the select board part or, or having Paul, there's 2 articles that need extra explanation. Well, all the zoning articles, there's 2 that Michael DeCara is going to talk about. And then we've got the accelerated stretch code, the specialty energy code, that I'm hoping the building committee will talk to. They're reviewing it now. And then we have a general bylaw that Michael DeCara is also going to review. So I'm wondering, I don't know if a half an hour, if we started at 6 with that stuff and then turned to the budget around 6:30 or 7:45, would that make sense to you guys? Or
it sounds like we wouldn't really be on until, if it starts at 6, I bet we wouldn't be on until after 7. Is that what you said? 7:45?
no, I was saying, I don't think there's, we don't get anybody at these meetings. Maybe this year will prove me wrong. That's why I'm saying it really loud, so somebody will prove me wrong. But I think it could be done in half an hour, or 45 minutes.
Well, we plan on being on call by 6:30, and we'll see if we're ready to go. But this is good, Clark, because I wasn't aware of this. So Paul there's essentially 2 goals for this meeting. There's going to be some kind of public discussion or presentation about a couple of warrant articles separate and apart from our budget presentation that Paul will be available for as well. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. I
All
think I emailed him about that. I got to call and confirm, but I had emailed him about it. I think he said that was fine.
Okay. Okay. April.
I just wanted to confirm that the four-town meeting is in person, it's not a Zoom meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
Unfortunately.
No, actually,
Yeah,
Given the
think s-
discussion, it's pretty important it be in person.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I assume that's why, I assume that because there's going to be a need for sort of discussions, that's why they chose to do this in person. I know it's in my invite, but it's at one of the schools. I'm not sure which
Middle
school. Did
school.
anybody notice that? The middle
Yeah,
school?
it's the
Okay.
middle school.
middle school, yeah, library.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Does everybody know where it is?
Um,
Yeah.
Oh, so this Saturday's meeting is only in person
Mhm.
at the middle
Correct,
school?
yes.
Okay. I didn't
Yes.
catch that.
and I think it's at a different time. Usually is. Let's just confirm this.
It's 9 to 11.
9
9
to 11.
a.m.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I don't know. Maybe should we stay there actually about Four Towns meeting and just I thought it'd be important to just have kind of your guidance. I'm assuming that as chair, I'll have to sort of play some role at the meeting in terms of just communicating what we've discussed and kind of what our conclusions about this have been. I took a few minutes just before you got on to jot down a few sort of talking points that I wanted to get your feedback on and see if I'm sure I'm missing things that you all feel are important to share. So this is what I wrote. So our finance committee feels that the modified statutory method that our towns have collectively worked so hard to achieve consensus on has been essentially abandoned for this budget. That's concern number one. Concern two is that although we recognize the extent of the cuts required by what I'm calling the February budget would negatively impact student experience, we feel a budget that includes an 8.2% increase would not be financially prudent. And we feel like we cannot recommend that our residents. The budget, again, approved by the regional school committee, would require us to utilize a significant amount of excess levy capacity. That's part of our concern. And we have proposed a compromise that we can recommend to our annual town meeting that would include a 6% increase over our FY24 assessment. So those are sort of 4 points that I thought probably going to be pretty important for me there. I think I've got to clean up some of the language, but how do folks feel about that? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the first point you made.
George.
Oh, I'm sorry, April. Yeah,
No, go
I'll
ahead.
wait for April.
No. Anyway, okay.
Okay, go ahead, April.
I just thought it was important for the last, we're a recommendation of the 6% is that that's using the already agreed upon assessment method. I think that's important.
Right. Yeah. So we arrived at that figure using the modified statutory method.
So when you say that,
George. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you say that they're not point one, we're walking away from the method. Mm-hmm. Explain to me how that is because we're changing the guardrail. I mean, they're still using.
So I think it's for a couple of reasons. One, so I think it's a sort of general point that we can make, which is that all 4 assessments, right, deviate in significant ways from what from what a budget that utilized the modified statutory method would produce, right? So across the board, we've got significant deviations from that. And, for two towns, there's significant deviations in a sort of downward direction. And for Amherst, they're pretty close, but for Shutesbury, it's a deviation that really is in a upward positive direction, right? We're contributing a significantly larger amount in our assessment than what the modified statutory method produced. So I think that's point one. Point two is that I think one of the ways that I think they've abandoned the use of the method is by the process that they've used here, where they've come up with, in previous years, they've calculated a level services budget. They've then used the guidance that Amherst has provided, right, to propose a new budget that's requires some amount of cuts, and then uses the modified statutory method to establish what each town would require, what assessment would be required from each town on a budget of that amount, and then they impose guardrails. In this case, they've really come up with a global budget number, and sort of, I struggle to find kind of the best way to describe what they did here, but essentially they backed into that number and determined what guardrail could be imposed on all four towns to produce a total budget of that number. And I think that's where that's led to an even greater set of deviations from the modified statutory method than would have been the result if they just took a budget that was at the amount that they agreed to in April and then applied the modified statutory method to that number.
Yeah, in form, they use.
Struggle to sort of find a kind of a, right.
Right, in form,
ahead,
they
George.
use the modified statutory method, but they use it on an amount that's so high that it's going to force everybody against the guardrail. So by design, what they did, as you said,
Right.
they backed into it. And by design, they basically rendered the method really ineffective. It's not really happening. I understand what you're saying. I know you're right.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny. It's
I mean,
they still apply it.
I think, right. I mean, I think, the sort of technical point is that at some point in the process, there were a set of calculations made that used the modified statutory method, but then by making these subsequent decisions, right, then they essentially, the end result is a budget that really deviates so significantly from what that method would have produced. And I think that's part of our issue, right? Is that we as a town, I think we've been supportive of the use of guardrails as a strategy to help, one or two individual towns
to manage large spikes.
Right, and we sort of never. We have not seen it used in this way, and never really contemplated that it would be used in a way to essentially cap, provide a consistent cap to the increase that all four towns would experience, and have that be the same percentage increase for all towns. Like that was never something that I think we.
They're exploiting the concept.
Right.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, it is hard to find the right way to say it. They're exploiting the concept to get us all to pay the same increase. The only thing I want to say, and then I'll is essentially what we're doing here is we were going to be at 2.5%. Now we're going to 6%. The towns were all, the other three towns were at 4%. Now we're saying everybody should be at 6%, although I don't know how our decision is going to affect everybody. So we're essentially kind of meeting the region halfway, if you will. Susie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I shared we had a little conversation about this, but.
Susie.
So I have a slightly different way of looking at it that I think may be part of what Doug and the school committee were thinking. We are paying an 8.2% increase on last year's amount for Shutesbury, which is modified 100% statutory. So we're starting at the place that we believe the assessment formula is, and then that it's 8.2 across the board. It's certainly not across, it's an across the board guardrail that's way higher than we thought, but it is based on the previous year's spending, which was modified statutory. So I wasn't at the regional school. I don't know how that got argued, but it is part of the argument, which is let's get the budget to meet this level, which was quite a bit higher than we had heard in February. One of the things you said in your first point was you used the word abandoned, and I think maybe the word deviated is better. That's a suggestion. And I think just flat out, we can't afford an 8.2% increase. Nobody can. So, so even though it was on last year's assessment, which was spread out the way the assessment formula is supposed to be, it's just that 8.2 is too high. So, so what I feel is we can say, and I think this is sort of the other part of the conversation, is we may have to continue to ramp up our support for the regional school budget, but we need to ramp it up. We can't just blast it through. And in our report, so one of the things that needs to be said at this meeting is that this problem is not all solved. So we're looking towards not only how to address this year, but that we will need to continue to figure out how to address the next couple of years. And when Aaron Saunders came a Monday, not this Monday, last Monday, a week before, he was saying, yeah, people have just got to figure it out for a couple of years, and then Chapter 70 is probably going to get reformulated. The fact that we're not the only town having this problem helps to motivate that, but he was basically saying it's at least a couple of years of trying to figure this out. All of these towns are going to have to figure it out. So I feel like we should say that too. I won't be there, but should say that at this meeting. We're not looking at the just one shot. So that's what I think.
So so Susie, the kind of kernel of what you want to make sure gets communicated there is that we feel it's important for all of our towns to recognize that this is not a 1 year kind of momentary shift, right? That this is part of kind of a ramping up of support for the regional schools that needs to be maybe more gradual than the region has put in front of us, and B, it will probably occur over 2 or 3 years until sort of the policy framework around Chapter 70 has changed in a significant way. Is that?
Yeah, and that we don't
mostly right. Okay, yeah.
We see that as part of the Chapter 70 problem. It's not like we're gonna, so this is saying costs should fall to the towns more. And if that's true, how are we gonna manage it? And here's one aspect of it. We can we can go up farther than we thought, but we'll probably have to look at more of this next year.
George.
Yeah, just to Susie's point, there's $400,000 of 1 year money that will be gone next year in the regional budget. So that right there, we know is going to be a problem. So ramping up is definitely, and then another point based on what Susie said, I don't know if you all read in the paper about Belchertown's meeting with Aaron Saunders, but he got an earful from the regional school.
Yeah.
They came down on him hard. So he's very much aware of the problem. The reason I raised my hand was I wanted to ask, have we heard what the other towns are doing? Oh, and I also wanted to say on that vein, I know in conversation with John Trickey, he was asking this regional school committee for a 3-year plan for the budget. What are your plans? Right along with Susie saying, what are your plans for funding this budget over the course of the next 3 years? How are the towns going to be able to manage it? So I'm just curious, have you heard anything at any of the meetings?
I heard that they are bringing together some kind of a multi-year look at revenue and expense projections, that they're bringing some of that to Saturday's meeting. And of course, it's full of all kinds of assumptions, but there has business office, I know, has done some work that they're going to be reporting out. That I think looks at the next 3 years. I haven't seen anything, and I suspect we probably will get something like the day or before the meeting. But
all eyes are on Amherst, right? I'm curious what they're thinking.
Yeah. I think if I have the timing correct, I think Amherst's FinCom is meeting tonight, and that this is they're going to have a significant discussion about this, and I think they're going to basically make some recommendation to the town council based on their discussion tonight. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. Susie?
I also find it a bit appalling that cuts have been made to the administration. And we know that Deb is leaving, Sasha already left. And yet we want a 3-year plan. I find, somewhere in there is recognizing the pressure that this is putting on people who are struggling.
Is Deb leaving, or is she scheduled to be cut?
No, she's done.
Yeah, she's had enough. Yeah, when she lost Mike, I think that was probably the end for her.
Right.
I don't know, but I bet you.
That's Debbie Westmoreland you're referring to?
Yes, yes.
Okay, got it.
She's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
handling Sasha's work right now.
Yeah. Oh,
God.
she's been critical to that office for decades.
And she's
Yeah.
done.
I didn't know that. Okay.
That's a big loss.
That's worrying. Yeah. I think I guess on a positive note, right? They've got superintendent candidates that have been meeting with the schools and the community over the last week or so, I think.
Yeah.
So I think we're very soon. I think we're going to have a replacement pretty soon, which is good. I think if you had told me back in the winter that we would have a new superintendent in place before the summer, I think I would have been pleasantly surprised by that. So, all right. Anything else that you all want to make sure gets communicated at the Four Towns meeting?
So are
I
we
mean, of
prepared
course, you'll have.
to, what other changes do we think we'll face, and what are we prepared to deal with?
Yeah. Okay, good question. So let me, Jim, I see your hand up.
Why don't you answer that though first, AJ, if you
Well,
have something on your mind?
I think we ought to Well, I think we ought to have a conversation about what our willingness and I to move beyond this 6% increase that we've voted on. I mean, I suspect there's not like a great appetite for that, but like what, depending on what happens at this meeting, if there's some plan that's proposed by one of the towns that would result in our assessment being greater than 6%, but less than the 8.2%, is that is a non-starter for our
So-
committee? I mean, what do we
Well-
feel? I mean, it's hard to answer that without knowing what the proposal is and how they got there, but it does seem like we should
So
have
our warrant article is already posted for a specific dollar amount. So, we can, we're flexible with anything that's less than 6% to us. But, are we gonna go back and talk about what our options are if we decide to go up another percentage point?
Could it go
Hold the
to
budget?
town meeting? It could go to town meeting as if the town meeting is not closed on that Saturday, right?
Right.
But it's still the same issue. You're still modifying a warrant article up. Even if, it isn't on the original meeting, you're still gonna be doing that. So,
Right.
what?
Right,
What do
right,
we
there
do?
is no process. Right, Becky? No process, because
No process.
it's, can only go down.
Yeah, we could leave it open for the warrant article regarding the assessment method, but it's not gonna help us with the budget. But we pretty much put our.
I mean, look, I'm comfortable personally with us saying, kind of treating that 6% figure as a ceiling, but I just wanted to sort of feel the committee out, especially since a couple of you are not going to be there on Saturday. Is that the right way for me to be thinking about this?
That's how I'm thinking about it.
Jim. Yeah. Okay. Let me go to Jim and then April and then Becky. I think I saw your hand go up there for a second. Jim?
Yeah, just to make sure we're all on the same page as far as timing, for this Saturday, did we say 9:00?
9:30.
Okay, yeah, Debbie Westmoreland's her message says 9:30.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's 9:30. That was what I was thinking, because I remember, I know we usually eat at 9, and it was, I think some people were a little confused why it was posted for 9. So yeah, it is 9:30.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
No, thanks. Yeah. April.
Yeah, what I wanted to do is just emphasize that our 6% is based on the new number that had come out of the, that we really are giving a lot in our response to the proposal. So I think we should stress that as well.
No. Becky.
So if all our thinking about Amherst is wrong and they meet the 8.2, I think that committees should think through a potential response, even if it's very unlikely. And I know Bob doesn't believe it'll happen, but it's best to be prepared.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I was going to say, if they go up,
George.
If they decided to fund the 8.2, they're going to have to go up $746,000 higher than the February number. That just seems, at 6%, they're going up 355, so half of that. So I just can't imagine that they would do that. I just want everybody. That's all.
It's the political pressure, I think, that could turn the tables. And, the finance committee is acknowledging that there is a problem, a systemic problem.
And we've done something. I mean, we went up a lot from what we were going to do in February. It was a
I'm
big
not
hit on our
arguing that.
budget.
I agree.
No, I know, but the region should be aware of it. That's my point.
Yeah, and I think AJ is gonna make sure. I just
Yes.
want you guys
Yeah.
prepared ahead of time if Amherst does go with the 8.2.
I think one possible, so I think sort of one way to respond would be, like Amherst's decision is their own independent decision to make, right? And however unlikely, if they were to find, presumably it would be cash, reserves. I don't know how they would fund that kind of an increase in any other way. But so let's say they
Override.
did do that. Yeah, right.
You do an override.
I that doesn't necessitate that we have to follow suit as a town. And I can state the position that our 6% increase that we've voted on and put in our budget and have posted a warrant article that includes that number represents the ceiling for what we think is affordable. And that's a stretch. It will require us to utilize some excess levy capacity, but that really does represent the ceiling for our town. And so independent of what Amherst is willing to do, we've had, I think, a clear consensus among our committee that we don't have the ability to move beyond 6%. So that, I think, would be one way to respond. And also, I think, and I think a few of us have expressed trepidation about using cash reserves to fund kind of operating budget. And clearly that's what this is, right? I mean, these are not like, these are not sort of special programs. This is the funding of a level services school budget, right? And so it's just fundamentally against our kind of guiding principles to use cash reserves, which I think is the only way we realistically, I think, could fund a budget increase beyond 6%.
It was the use of the ARPA money and the URSA money. It was the use of cash to put us in this position.
Right.
Which is true for the other
good point.
towns. If you listen to Northampton and you listen to the other towns talk, it's the same thing for them.
Yeah. Becky, what do you think? Does that sound like, I mean, it's a position. I don't know, but yeah, but
It's a position if you guys are comfortable. I just take it one step forward. Amherst says that they found a way to pay, have already talked to Pelham and Leverett, and they've both agreed. What do you do then? If you're the only town that's not at 8.2? It's just an exercise. I just want you guys ready.
No, I
it's a
totally
good
appreciate why you're
exercise.
doing this, but well, I would find it odd that they reached out to Leverett and Pelham to didn't bother to talk to us. But I would say, look, I would say that we had an extensive discussion about this budget, the 8.2% budget, and we do not see a path towards funding that budget. And it's because of that issue that I mentioned. It would require us to utilize cash reserves. And I think, as Susie said earlier in this meeting,
Process to vote.
we're gonna face an even bigger structural issue next year with the without access to any more ESSER funding, right? What is it? They have $500,000 that they can use. Is that the right number that they're utilizing for this budget? Does anybody remember?
I think it's 400 or 500. That's
I think it's 500.
Yeah.
500. Okay. And that goes away next year, right? And so, I mean, if we were to make that kind of decision now, let's say to use cash reserves to fund the difference between 6 and 8.2%. I mean, what would we do next year? It would be, we would have to commit and even, you know, so yeah, I don't think that's.
Yeah, and remember also, they came out of collective bargaining and the teachers are all getting good raises next year. So, you know, this budget's going to continue to rise.
Yeah.
Yeah, AG,
right.
I support your proposed response to Becky's possible scenario here, what she's throwing out there. I'd support that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for doing that, Becky. I think you're right. It's important to be prepared. I mean, we all have a strong suspicion that Amherst is going to need some kind of compromise, but you're right to say that there's a lot of political pressure to support the schools for understandable reasons. And, you know, that at the end of the day, that pressure may prevail and, you know, have them take a pretty big step and accept that budget. So, okay, Susie and then Jim Hemingway.
It's important, it's important not to call it a level services budget because there's a $700,000 cut in it.
Yeah.
And we saw the House Ways and Means put in a little more money. And I was trying to understand the way that money comes in. It shouldn't necessarily, it doesn't have to lower our assessment. It could lower that whole of 700,000. I don't know how that comes out on paper, but if there was, do what?
I'm sorry, Susie, I couldn't follow what you were.
So there may be more money coming in from the state somewhere, somehow, but definitely right now, the cherry sheet is showing that in chapter 70 money. I believe it did there.
It went up a small amount. It wasn't
Right.
significant.
So when that money comes in, can it go to the school budget against the cut that they've made, or does it lower our assessments? Is there a natural way that money moves in?
The money goes
That's a good
straight
question.
to the district.
Straight to the district. Okay, so they decide how to do it. I wouldn't expect it to lower our assessment. That's what I was
No,
thinking.
it wouldn't touch our assessment.
No,
And the
I don't think
third
so.
thing,
They'd use it to fund one of those positions. That's what they would do.
yeah. And the third thing is, if Amherst should go to 8.2, then Shutesbury would be one of the towns, maybe the only town, that would be responsible for saying, well, we can't get to 8.2, we can get to 6. And if that makes cuts in your budget, that's the way it is.
Right.
Just be able to know that, because I think that that's going to be true. And that we have a rationale for how we're trying to run the finances of this town. And it's not about cutting Amherst, it's about making ourselves, our budget work for more than 1 year. So they
Right.
may say, you know, we're going to have to make some cuts, and Shutesbury, we didn't really want to be the town that caused that when we started our discussions, but it may be true.
Right.
It may be, but I don't think that's what's really going to happen.
Yeah.
But good.
Jim Hemingway.
Yes, what sort of a percentage of budget increase are we tolerating with our own elementary school this year?
It's down to
5.77.
5.6 something.
5 point,
Or
we're down to
77?
5.6.
Yeah.
So we're below 6%. That's what was important, because if the number was much higher, then the 6% that we're proposing, you know, and that was, and people knew about that, it would make arguing for 6% that much more difficult, I would think. If we tolerated it with our own elementary school, then why not the regional school? But if it's only 5.6, I think 6% is definitely the right number, and we shouldn't go above it, period. I agree with Susie on that.
Yeah. Before I go to George, Susie, could you clarify? Because I think this 5.6% increase on the elementary budget flows from an adjustment that was made due to the superintendent's salary. Is that correct? Could you just,
Yes, the
I know you
superintendent's,
emailed us. Yeah, if you could just
Right. I
explain that
actually
again.
don't have their budget printed out. I've printed out too many budgets. So I don't have it to look at, but it is because the superintendent's salary is lower. It's a Union 28 expense, and so it lowered a tiny bit in our budget. I must-
Right, we're not gonna change that, the budget we completed, right?
What
It's
did
too
you-
late.
I
You
did.
could amend it on town meeting floor. If the school committee wants to amend it on town meeting floor, they could do that,
I
but
think it's too small to bother with, but that's fine. If that's the
Oh,
Does
it's
case,
fine.
anybody
I
know
think
exactly?
I think it's 5.77, but
No, that's what I saw.
if you have I sent it to you. I just,
it's
No, it was 5.77.
it's 5.86 in the budget that we have right now.
Right.
And that's, and I would point out that, you know, a good chunk of that is being funded by cash. Well, as opposed to the region.
Becky-
where-
their budget is larger
Becky,
than
could you-
our regional budget, so their 5.77% increase is probably more like 6% in the region, but anyways,
Dollars wise.
dollar wise.
is that what you needed, AJ?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna show this while we're talking. I'll just show that really quick. Yeah, Susie, I think this is the
Yeah.
5.77
Mhm.
that you were referring to. Okay, so yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
That's-
So did I understand that correctly? That went from 5.87 down to 5.77 with this small change in the superintendent's salary?
I think it was,
Yes,
Something like that.
586 is what it is in the budget right
Right.
now. In our operating
Okay, got
budget
it.
that we're proposing.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, to me,
All
I
right,
see no reason in changing it.
George.
And on that line, I would say, if it does change, please let me know, because I won't be there, but I'll have to update the annual report for when we publish it next year.
Yeah.
The whole conversation about what Shutesbury can afford and what we decided, you know, I'm hopeful that, I mean, it would be great if the other towns went up to 6%. In my mind, they probably weren't going to. And one of the benefits of us going as high as we did, 6%, was we were going to be ramping this line up, like we were just talking about, the need to ramp it up, and we would already have a head start on that. If it goes to 6%, okay, then we pay 6%, and we've still made that step forward. In the decision that we made regarding whether to what we can afford, you know, we're asking the towns, the average taxpayer in our town, to pick up. Becky, do you remember the number? Was it $250?
yeah, I
on
think
their
that's
tax
what it
bill
was.
next year? Yeah, so we're asking for a big jump. You know, we're asking the taxpayers to foot a much bigger bill next year. And, you know, I'd like to some extent, connect this conversation to that as well.
But I think in absolute numbers, Amherst kind of, their tax bills have been leaping higher than that for the average person. So they may not have any sympathy for 250.
Yeah, they won't. No, you're right about that, Susie.
wouldn't
That's
go
been the
there.
issue for all those years we were talking about the regional assessment. They always had this big gap. We've all seen the graph. And that's true.
They have more paved roads.
Pretty bumpy,
bad,
if
though.
you ask me. Yeah.
Terrible.
University Drive, for all the traffic it gets.
Terrible.
Man.
Well,
All
and
right,
I'm
April.
not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is where to even bring it up, but it seems to me that there's three very large landowners in Amherst, the university and the two colleges. And, you know, and I know that the regional school committee does not negotiate the pilots, but it seems like that is another potential way that the community and the larger community could benefit. You know, could it, you know, there's our state legislature they're working on it. But this, you know, this seems like an elephant in the room, that there's, you know,
Yeah.
and this is, yeah.
Yeah, the committee the regional school committee, I think, formed a new subcommittee that is going to do some outreach on this, and I believe with both Amherst College and UMass. And so this has been a part of their discussion. I think they've just gotten some feedback that this is not something that's it's important, but it's not going to impact FY25. It's a longer process. Yeah.
You're on mute.
Oh, April, I think you're muted.
I think it's disappointing that it's a place like Amherst College, which is well endowed, is not stepping up to the plate independently. I mean, I just, the value of education and what they stand for.
Yeah.
So I'll go talk to them.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, I would say if any of you have sort of contacts that are like decision makers at Amherst College and UMass, you should definitely reach out to.
Well, Melissa,
yeah. Too bad she's not there anymore.
Yeah, she used to work for the president.
For a reason.
Yeah, we lost our operative.
Yeah.
I did talk to Anna at the school committee meeting, must have been last week, and yeah, they haven't moved on that yet. And it, for the same reason, everybody's underwater dealing with a lot of stuff, but they haven't begun. And the legislature hasn't gotten it forward. And I was talking to somebody who said, well, these are nonprofits. There are lots of nonprofits. Should they all pay taxes on their property? What if it's a church? What if it's a human services agency? It's like, don't talk to me about that, because Cornell has an agreement. Some people have figured it out, and I find it really appalling that they haven't pushed them to figure it out in Amherst, but there we are. But it is not at all on the roofs. Maybe that's how Amherst deals with next year. Maybe they can see how to get through next year if they can get some kind of agreement worked out. But Amherst has been approached before. Amherst College has been approached before. They're not with it.
Well, on this subject, I will say this. If Amherst College agrees to something, where does the money go? Does it go to the school, or does it go to the town of Amherst? And if it goes to the town of Amherst, it just puts pressure on us to come up with more money, because that just means Amherst can afford and give higher guidance and push the assessment up, the total budget up, and they can afford it because they got this money coming in, and the rest of us have to come up with our portion. So, how it's structured could actually hurt us.
So they
I'm not
come
saying
up with,
I'm not in favor of it.
They come up with the 700,000. I mean, they certainly could. It doesn't have to be even across the board. It's like, you have a really wealthy tax base. It's an advantage, and you should be able to pay more.
Yeah, but if they come up with 700,000 more, Amherst can go to 8.2. Then everybody's going to look at us and say, "Can you raise your 6 to 8.2?"
And we can't. We can't.
Right, we can't. But I'm just saying,
the Shutesbury Athletic Club maybe could. We have no other sources of revenue.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens with our future new growth. There are some opportunities, but let's not go there. Yeah. One other thing about that is, I know Smith College is under the same pressure from the town of Northampton. So that's out there.
Jim Walton?
Yeah, along the same line, it seems to me that Amherst has had a lot of new growth too, right?
Yeah.
Lots of new housing and which the tax base has got to be growing pretty significantly there.
Seems like it. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I think they've got just some. I mean, we've got some capital projects, but they have some enormous ones, I think.
And they have, they've had new expenses too. Like the Cress is a brand new department, and they're throwing a lot of money at that. And there's probably another few examples where they're increasing their spending a lot. Well, I think that's part of the answer. That's not the full answer. It does seem with all the new revenue they have that they'd be a lot stronger, but their average single tax bill keeps rising.
So AJ, you got to share all this on Saturday, all this information to the.
I'm going to do my best. Yeah. But look, I mean, that said, I'll certainly be prepared to summarize kind of our positions on these issues, but whoever's at the meeting, you're obviously more than welcome to chime in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. But I think this was good prep work for that meeting. So thanks for that.
So who's going to be there?
Is there a need to,
I will be there.
at this meeting on Saturday to reinforce our commitment to the to the modified statutory? You know, we don't want to, with all this going on the last couple of months, we don't want to lose in all this.
That was AJ's first
recent
point.
frenzy, and you get a lot of new people in Amherst that are involved with these decisions. Is there a need to reinforce the history and where we are? And we're maybe concerned that we didn't follow that over the last couple of months, that process.
I definitely think there's a concern, and I think part of the way to frame it is that this is not just like Shutesbury complaining about the assessment method, right? This is we've collectively worked so hard with other towns over such a long period of time to finally get to a place where it seemed like we had some good consensus about an assessment method that was fair, was a fair compromise for all towns, and we definitely need to reinforce that we shouldn't be turning our back on that consensus. So yeah, I agree, Jim. Okay, Susie?
One other point is, in a process, I don't see any reason to be holding this close to our chest, that we have in our budget, we have planned in our budget a 6% increase. And I wonder what happens if you get that word out now to lever it. Because we were wondering what other towns are doing. We know what we're doing, and I wonder what the effect of sharing that would be. This is not a poker game, and it doesn't break open meeting law to let people know that this is part of the thinking. And I wonder if that would be helpful in terms of walking in on Saturday.
I can send an email to John Trickey and say, we have approved the budget that will increase the regional line by 6%. And if you want, you tell me what you'd like me to add to that. But I can certainly do that with Pelham if you'd like. I'd be willing to do that with Pelham.
And make sure and this is the 6% based on the new number that came from the region, not the old number that we had been working on.
Well, 6% from the prior year.
Can anybody think of a reason you wouldn't start having this out in the information load?
No.
I mean, because not only John Trickey, it could go to Amherst and like the whole, we are saying this is where we're at. And then that way, when you walk in on Saturday, it's not like, ta-da. it's
well,
there.
who else knows who else? I mean, who are we networked with?
Yeah. So I mean, I could certainly share this update with Doug, so that the superintendent is not, has been prepped that this is a decision we've made and we've built it into our budget.
So does
George,
so
I was wondering if
Amherst
go ahead.
I was going to say, so Amherst is not aware of what we've done at this point. Because I was wondering if they had this information for tonight's conversation.
I didn't speak to Andy again until I was waiting till after this meeting to be sure what you're sticking to your guns on.
Could you email him now? Is he on their finance committee for the?
Yeah, they're meeting at this moment.
Yeah.
I think they're meeting now. I think one way or the other, either now or after our meeting, if you could let Andy know, and that, because I think I see your point, Susie, right? That we might want to do a little work to kind of prime everybody for a potential compromise that is consistent with this, or at least doesn't exceed this 6% increase, right? It would be it'd be, if we did a little bit of sort of laid that kind of groundwork, maybe there might be some momentum to like, yeah, to rally kind of around, that kind of an increase. Jim?
I disagree. I think we should not pass that information around at all. We've been talking all along that 6% is our absolute top limit. And if we throw that figure out there, then we're going to be at that top limit perhaps. And the whole reason about having that top limit was that we could handle anything that was hopefully going to be less than 6%. And it just may have the opposite effect of moving, of moving the amount up for all of us, rather than Amherst saying, "God, well, what are we going to do? We're going to have to come up with a figure that is certainly less than 8.2 and probably less than 6%." I don't think we should pass this information around. I think we should just go there and see what happens. Amherst is going to.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, along the same line, maybe there's a compromise here. We have a warrant article that says 6%, and that's out there. So I don't see the issue with us going further, but I think maybe we modify the way we communicate and say we're looking at as much as 6% or up to 6%. Not that we're committed to 6%.
Yeah.
But we're looking at going as far as 6%, possibly.
Right, not to exceed. No.
Not just going to Amherst or Leverett saying we've agreed to 6.
Yeah, I agree.
But we. Yeah.
All right.
I did not finish my email.
Good.
You didn't hit the send.
Slower. Just have to add those words "as much as."
Yes, up, yeah.
Yeah.
Up to.
Yeah. So this does seem important to at least share with Doug Slaughter. Does everybody agree? Right. Because he's going to be preparing some, some, or at least he's going to need to be prepared to respond to some requests on Saturday to, hey, can you tell us what this budget would look like if we did A or B or C? And so he should at least know that that's kind of the ceiling of what, we feel we can recommend to our town. Okay.
Yeah, he might
So
put together.
I
was going to say he might put together a scenario that does that, so he can let everybody know what it would mean for them. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that even drives something.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of at one point, and I think I decided against it because I don't think it's really our responsibility, but I kind of would like to see the region propose a budget that restores the world languages positions, because I felt like so much of the public concern about that February budget was about really two issues: the world languages being the big one, and then the restorative justice counselors being the second big issue. And it sure would have been nice to see like a budget that said, okay, well, what would it look like if we maintain those positions, but unfortunately had to cut the others? And my hope is that this 6% number sort of ends up kind of being there. But anyway, I as a FinCom, it didn't feel appropriate for me to like be saying, well, we think these are the more important student facing position, so I decided against bringing that to you guys. But anyway, I'm hope is that 6% compromise kind of ends up doing that, sort of restoring those positions.
But
Susie?
Anna said even the school committee did not want to sort out which problems. And so they took the category of student facing positions, and they did not want to separate them out. So it's not, we shouldn't, and they won't. I don't think they will. I don't know how they'll make those decisions, or I think the superintendent will make some decisions and put it in front of the school committee.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've had a pretty extensive discussion here, so I'll propose that we move on to the next item. I'm going to pull up George's draft annual report for us to just walk through now and get your sort of feedback on. I think everybody has seen a version of this that's, sorry, 1 second. What's going on here? Okay. I think George made one small change after he shared it with the whole committee, just following up on a suggestion I made, but let's see. Okay, here we are. Okay. Everybody see this?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, so George, do you want to walk us through? This is a premier format. Is there anything you think we ought to highlight at this point, just for the committee on the
Well,
first page here?
You know, I would say this is pro forma. It's the same exact thing we did last year.
Mhm.
The only thing that's
Mhm.
different on this page in terms of format and information is in the box on the right, we're showing average single tax bill. And
Mhm.
that's something we hadn't had in the past. We only had the tax rate. But, you know, if we're going to tell everybody that the estimated average single tax bill is more important than tax rate, is more meaningful, then that's why we added this. And it does include the means testing.
Should that be the,
Yes,
sorry, George, in that box, should that last line be the FY24 average?
yes,
Was
sir.
6,126?
Yeah, here, let me
Sorry,
fix
okay,
that. I'll
yeah.
send you the change
Okay.
later.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
yeah.
good. Well, that's
I think that's a
weird.
good
That's-
addition, George, putting this,
Mm.
yeah,
Wait,
doing this by the
increase-
average tax bill.
No,
Yeah,
you
you're
want
right.
about the 25.
FY24 is 6126 and FY25 is 6367. Good catch. Jeez, I can't believe I missed that.
Okay.
Yep. I'll send you when we're done. We can make lots of changes. I'm editing as we go.
Okay, good.
Great.
Do you think
Right.
that people that get their bill paid by the bank don't realize what their number is? And I wonder if it should just say, you know, $250 increase. I mean, that it brings it more real to me.
Mm.
I think people want to know what it is. And when they're comparing us to other towns, this is the measure that all the towns use. And this is a number that's used by the DOR. So that's why I prefer this. People can do math.
I meant both. I
Hmm.
can see that they could just subtract those two numbers. So maybe that's enough.
Which is 241, by the way.
It could be spoken to when it's presented. Just speak to that.
Yeah, which represents a
Yeah.
$241 increase, which, by the way, is the largest increase year to year that we've had, I think, ever.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. We've had
Well,
years.
did we? Okay.
I think it would be overkill.
Well, Becky, going back.
I think it would be
since
overkill for this.
Not in the last 15.
Go ahead, George.
You go back 16 years and you're talking overrides, we had like 3 and 8 years or something.
Okay, well, I've got a table here. In FY14, we went up $29, and every year since then, you know, it's been 202 was the highest number, then 214 in FY22 and FY23. So we are at the level that we were, you know, a few years ago, but it is the highest. Again, but I'm talking about actuals, and we always are conservative. This 241 is probably going to end up being something much less. It always is. So Becky, I'm sure you're right.
Would it be worth noting that, you know, what was projected for FY24 for the average tax bill and what was the actual? Would that?
I don't know if we actually projected it last year. I'd have to go back and look. I know that we project. Yeah, I don't know. I know last year we projected that we were going to be digging into excess levy capacity, and we ended up not touching it. We thought we were going to have more than 2.5 increase, and it was 2.2. That much I do know. So whatever we were estimating last year certainly was higher than what actually happened.
We didn't have it estimated out loud.
Yeah, we didn't, not the average single tax bill.
No. Okay, let's just leave it there.
Yeah.
Just, we can do the math.
And then, yeah, on this page, and then this is the typical graph that we always did. Shows the same information we always do. The $40,000 overlay is allocated between commercial and residential to the same extent that commercial and residential are a percentage of our tax levy. It's 94% of it, but that's no big deal. So no, I don't really think there's anything else to add here.
Yeah.
What about, just to throw it out there, temporary cost? What about one-time cost? Is that?
Yeah, that's addressed in the next table. So you can see the revenue, the free cash for temporary costs, $70,000. And then down below, now you're looking at the expense pie chart, which just shows all the departments. And then when you go below, you'll see where all the increases are. Yeah, I guess we don't really. At some point, we do point out how the 70 is allocated, do we?
I'm sure we do. Where is it?
Yeah, there it is.
Here.
Okay, good,
Right?
good. Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, so I thought of that. Yeah, so if you scroll up to page 2, because I think you're on page 3. Yeah, so there's your increases. I think people are going to like to see that. That budget increase of 309, that's 4.47. That's a big number. But, you know, I know.
And that's with a lot of cash, using a lot of cash too.
Right. That's why we can do it, right? That's why revenue is or tax levy's not going to have to go. So, yeah. So anyways, I lifted all those numbers off the, you know, the expense schedule. Becky sent me the Excel format, so it was easy for me to sort by the increases and just pluck them all out. And we do have 2 decreases, the reserve fund decrease. I didn't put a footnote on that, but remember, we decreased that so that we could absorb the full school budget. And you all know the logic. It's, well, we had built the school special need one time out of district. I forget what kind of word we use. I know
State mandated.
State mandated costs, right? We had built it into the reserves. And so this is how we were going to utilize that. So you might want to be prepared to address that on the floor, or if you'd like, I could certainly expand on this description.
I have a couple suggestions for this part. I'm wondering if we should put down the percentage for A and B, not just the, oh no, wait a minute, not,
For
I
B
mean,
and C?
B and
For
C.
B and C, I think.
B and C.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess I want to have the information out there.
So I'll use 5.86 for the elementary school, not what
Right,
sent out the other day.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, and then give me 1 second. 5.99. Yeah, it's actually 5.99, but if you want, I can call it 6. I'll call it 5.99, and we'll just call it 6 in conversations, because that's what it says on the schedule that the town.
Okay.
Okay, done.
All right. All right, page 3.
Yeah, so the thing to note about, so the notable projected revenue increase, we're looking at a total tax levy increase of 225. Becky, you're looking at the schedules right now and verifying what I'm saying is true, right? 225 on the total levy. Yes, 225. And those numbers add up, 156, 55, and 13, right? That will get you that gets you 225. So Those are the three main components, the 2.5 increase, the new growth increase, and then an additional amount coming from excess levy capacity. And then, you know, I don't know why we always put this in here, but we do estimate state aid increase by $30,000. I think that's to make a point that we're all putting up a lot and the state doesn't seem to really be helping us much. But I don't, you know, we don't put in the local aid increase. And we could.
George, is the 30,000 the houses version? I mean,
Well, it's what we have,
No,
it's
the
what we
government.
have on the current budget.
Okay.
Because, so I'm tying all these numbers tie out to what we're gonna be showing everybody on annual town meeting. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think, I
think
took a
it's
look
important.
and there is an increase, but they're not a lot. You know, the difference between what we have in the budget and those cherry sheets that they distributed this week, it's not a lot.
no, we have Democrat governor, so
Right.
the numbers don't jump.
Yeah, so. And then, so that's the story for the revenues, and I think you all understand what that all means. And then cash reserve summary, beginning balance. So you can see what I did. It makes sense, right? The formatting brought it to where we
Yep.
started, where it is now, and where it will be when we're done. And so section 3 is where we started and where it is today. And I did put those footnotes. So did that description look good on one appropriate for
Yeah.
gas at fire station or mitigation and testing for gas? Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta edit on number 3, make it April instead of April.
I should have gotten that.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
I missed that.
Oh yeah, my spelling. Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
typo,
Yeah.
2 places.
2 places.
Yeah.
There, there.
Yeah, because I copied it. Okay. Well, actually, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, done. Good catch. And then in the next one, of course, we all know what that is. I mean, it's self-explanatory. Ties out to the warrant articles. Should tie out to the warrant articles. And of course, we talked about the not capital one. So I've made that footnote for the operating, but well, we already talked about this. That all looks right. My spelling looks okay.
Mhm.
And then
Yes.
in 2, right, just show that we're actually
Should that
spending more
be-
on those 2 items.
George, should number 4, should that be fiscal year 25?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Nice.
And did you choose F to be 5K? In the warrant article, I think it's 4.
Yeah, I rounded it up because, you know, I
Okay.
wasn't using percentages on any of these. If you'd
All
like,
right.
I can do that.
Okay, no, I
I think it's
didn't
good.
know if people would go like, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, because I was just trying to be consistent.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Hey,
and
George,
then-
one question. So since the school facade and painting work is no longer a capital project that requires funding that's allocated at town meeting, it's no longer in this report anywhere, but right. But I'm wondering if it's important for us to just communicate that we're utilizing, you know, previously awarded earmarked funds to do that work. I mean, it seems like there'd be town interest in knowing that there's a, you know, pretty significant school improvement project happening and that it's getting funded from sort of earmark contribution. I don't know where to put it is the problem because it's
Yeah,
not a-
yeah, I was gonna say that makes
not a
total
warrant
sense.
article.
I mean, we could make a note 3 that says
Yeah.
does not include,
Right.
Yeah, let's do that.
Or not, instead of does not include, you could say repairs and painting paid for out of previous grant or previous
No, earmark.
earmark.
So
Yeah.
say that again, talk slowly.
Repairs and painting to the elementary school paid out of earmarked funds.
We can't be more specific than that.
I mean, we have a number. I'll pull it up while we're talking. Yeah.
It's $100,001.
There you go.
Well, I wasn't thinking that, but yes, I can do that. Repairs and
That's good.
painting.
Right,
It's
elementary school.
elementary school exterior repairs and painting. I think something like that.
All right, now you got me moving around here. All right. Oh. Okay, elementary school
Exterior
Repairs and painting.
repairs and painting.
Okay, elementary school exterior repairs and painting. When I said be more specific, what's the earmark? Where are the funds coming from? Elementary school exterior.
From Joe Comerford's office, funded through EOATD. But it was Joe
You
Comerford's,
should give her the credit too.
These,
it's Joe
yeah,
Comerford that put the earmark through for us. Well, Mary Ann negotiated it for 3 or 4 years
Oh,
and
that money.
then
yeah. We used most of it for the school roof project, and then
So it's
but
from the state.
it was left over.
yeah, state funding through, well, it's federal money through the state, through our local legislator. But we haven't had an earmark in. I've never seen us get an earmark before. Oh, the dam, we got an earmark for the dam.
From our House Senate representative, right?
Yeah, from Stan Rosenberg.
Well, Joe Comerford now.
Yes. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna read this
All right,
back,
great.
make sure I got it right. I got spelling error here I gotta fix. Okay. Elementary school exterior repairs and painting from federal money through the state. From our Senate representative, does that sound right?
I'd just put Joe Comerford. Senator Joe, or Senator Comerford.
How do you spell her name?
COMEFORD.
Comerford.
COMER.
Yeah, it's Comerford, right? I've got it. I've got her newsletter to show the other day. All right. All right, one more time. Elementary school exterior repairs and painting from federal money through our state, through Senator Comerford. Okay, elementary school exterior repairs and painting from federal money through Senator Comerford.
Do you want to put the word paid in there? It just says from federal money, but should it be paid from?
Or funded by?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, funded.
A verb.
I wouldn't put the federal money piece. I'd just leave her as the earmark.
Yeah, because it's kind of confusing because if it's federal money, why is it Senator Comerford?
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that in. I would just say, it's just that's who I have to deal with to try to get access to the money.
Elementary school exterior repairs and painting from funds through Senate, elementary school exterior repairs and painting through
Funded.
Senator Comerford.
Funded by an earmark through Senator Comerford's office.
Okay. One more time. Elementary school exterior repairs and painting funded by an earmark through Senator Comerford's office.
Right.
All right.
Good.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome. Oh, happy to do it. I'll
All
have to
right,
work
so
on
then we
the
have ending
Spelling.
balances, right? If all capital projects pass.
Yep, and the math should work. I've checked it multiple times. The balance does not include additional free cash generated at the end of fiscal 24, 86 transfer stabilization for fiscal 25. Okay, good.
Should that second bullet be includes
Yeah,
86K
it's
transfer into,
yes. So if you took capital stabilization under number 3, 127,
Mhm.
and you subtracted 12 from it, right, you'd get 115. So how do you get 201? You add 86 from 115 plus 86.
okay, great. All right, 6, upcoming capital projects.
So all of this is the same as last year with, I think I dropped one item that is in the warrant articles this year. I forget which one. It might be the school. I think it was the
Yeah.
exterior school stuff.
Right.
And I added a risk, number 8, the contamination at the fire station because of gas. And the rest of it is the same as
I see.
last year. So put on your thinking hats and think what should we be including or excluding here?
So one thing is that we have a warrant article for another 150,000 for the PFAS. So, I don't know if those two things, numbers 7.7, connect in people's minds, but maybe they do. We're
Yeah.
we're borrowing to do it. But anyways, I don't know. I thought about that.
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah, so I mean, we could add PFAS mitigation as a upcoming potential capital project as well as a risk. And I guess we could also put, gravel road repairs as another,
Yeah,
like
that's
both of
a good-
those.
It's a little bit of two.
Both of
but-
those are right. Both of those are both sort of risks, but they're also potential capital projects.
Okay, so an F and a G under 6.
I think so.
SMG, mhm.
Okay, so gravel road upgrades.
Yeah,
Yep.
And G would be,
PFAS mitigation.
okay,
I suggest in number 7, an additional risk is the regional school budget.
Yeah.
Because it's ongoing. That lets us think of it as an ongoing thing.
oh, you, a number 3, make a D or
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
D.
I think a D.
Schools-
Yeah.
regional school operating budget,
Yep.
Yeah.
period.
Period.
Yeah, bad enough. Okay.
And then I
Says it
wondered
all.
if that would also be in the risk is that the chapter 70 money is not increasing.
Keeping pace.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep that under schools as well, right? Chapter 70
Yeah.
funding. No longer adequate, no,
I think it's no longer keeping pace with
Costs.
the costs of operating a school district.
costs true, but it's an old formula that isn't designed for what's going on now.
Well, it was
So-
a funding choice. I mean, it was even more than that. The state chose where to put that money, and it isn't us. They put
Yeah.
it in SOA.
This whole argument, I'm glad we're talking about this. If I may interject, this whole argument about, and it's true, we're all getting less money because our populations are down. Well, that's true for the whole state because that's the trend in our society is lower birth rates 10 years ago. are starting to have an impact on everybody, and Chapter 70 has not adjusted for that. It's not been modified to take that into account,
Well, it's
among
also
other things.
it's their policy. The Student Opportunity Act was a policy decision, and it changed the funding flow. And they can
Yeah.
make other decisions, and it'll
Yeah,
change the
that's true.
funding flow. So they made changes in their policy, and that's not, we're not the beneficiaries of it.
So Chapter 70 funding policies not benefiting our local schools.
Yeah.
And there's continuing need in the face of ESSER funding that's ending. I mean, yeah, it was to support situations that came out of COVID. Some of those situations, mental health ones especially, are still here. So
Yeah.
the ESSER funds ending, when there's still a need, that's, I don't know, that maybe that one shouldn't be in there, but that's how we're here.
Partly, yes.
So how about this? Chapter 70 funding policies are not benefiting our local schools and are no longer keeping pace with our costs, I think is what April said, with costs.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really cost, but it's also the dynamics of the cost, like more counseling, you know, but
Yeah.
that's probably good enough. All right, one more time. Chapter 70 funding policies are not benefiting our local schools and are no longer keeping pace with our costs, our school costs. I'll just, okay,
Mhm.
done.
And one question I had is, Jim Walton explained this to me last year, and I can't keep a hold of it. Number 10 says that residential taxes account for 94% of Shutesbury's tax revenues.
Yeah,
but not
tax
the
levy.
whole revenues, because the pie shows
Right.
74% of
I would
all
put-
the revenue,
I
but
would put
94 of
bracket
that is residential. Okay, I remembered it again, Jim.
So,
But those two numbers don't match, and I always go like, what? I thought it was 74.
well, you know, that's a good point. Residential taxes account for 94% of Shutesbury's tax revenues. I added in brackets tax levy. And then the average town in Massachusetts relies on 83%. Okay. Yeah. So Susie, I did clarify that a little. So if anybody wants to make that point, you can point to the revenue page and show them. If you look at the tax levy, 94% of that's from residential and the rest of it's from commercial industrial.
Right.
That's so I did. And one thing, AJ, is I'll send you the PDF like I always do. I'm also going to send you the Word document. So if you decide to make any changes on the fly, you can do it.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I suggest that in number 10, you put the 94% first? 94% of the residential taxes account for Shutesbury's tax revenue. That's true, right? That's a true sentence.
94% residential taxes account for.
No, it's not 94% of residential taxes. It's 94% of Shutesbury's tax revenues.
Oh, right. Our
Is
residential.
accounted for
Yeah.
by our residential.
So
Yeah.
you could put residential taxes at the end of that sentence instead of at the beginning. 94% of Shutesbury's tax revenues are residential taxes. Right? That's true.
Yeah, and the other 6 is the commercial.
Commercial.
Yeah, the other.
Okay.
And get rid of the accounts for. So let me read it just to make sure I got it right. 94% of Shutesbury's tax revenues, tax levy, are residential taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Yeah, you could choose revenue or levy, right? You don't have to have them both.
Yeah, I mean, it really is tax levy.
Yeah. Well,
Technically speaking, that's the right word. If you want, I can just replace revenues with levy and call it a day there. 94% of Shutesbury's tax levy is from residential taxes. or is residential taxes. That's probably good. I'm gonna
George,
say
I remember in past years, I don't remember now whether you have it at the beginning of this presentation, but you showed how much comes from commercial and other sources too, the other revenue sources in past
total-
years.
Yeah, it's
Yep, it's in the
That's the
pie.
very first, that's the very first pie.
Okay, good. Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, I see it. Thanks.
So while we're there though, just real quick.
Yep.
Right, so somebody would have to take what's 327 plus 5384, divide the 5384 into the total of those two, and they should get 94%. Let's see if that's true. How much is the commercial?
No,
Lucky
George,
Art.
this also has, this is revenues from taxes, not, the state aid shows up in this pie.
Yes,
And
yep, nope, that's true.
so that's a separate, you're
Well,
not
no,
gonna
but
get,
5711. That works. If I take the commercial industrial 327 and I add it to the 5,384, I get 5711. When I divide 5384 into 5711, I get 94%.
yeah.
It's a good double check to
Yeah.
make sure, because I just don't want to find out after the fact or on the town floor. I won't be there, but you guys will have to deal with something that's not consistent.
We'll just break into hysterical laughter and let it go at that.
Or you can just say, yeah, George screwed up again.
Yeah.
Where's that, George?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, right.
Right.
We've come this far.
Okay.
Those opportunities are just pipe
Great.
dreams, but
Okay.
there is the possibility, I guess.
And those are carryovers from last year's report as well, right?
Right, no changes.
Yeah.
And when we
Yeah.
talk to Aaron about number one and number two, he gets hysterical.
Mhm.
Basically, there's not much hope this year. There's no hope this year. Hopefully next year, maybe one of them.
We met with the MWRA
Mm-hmm.
and they did a PowerPoint presentation
Uh-oh.
really fast and it was over in half an hour and they clicked away. And
Yeah.
I have almost zero hope for this.
Yeah.
I think it feels like they're just trying to determine it's not feasible.
Right.
Well, and the thing is, all they have to do is raise rates on water, and it's small. They're talking pennies.
Yeah. And number 3 is a bit of a pipe dream right now, I think, but one we need to keep alive.
Yeah, I still argue we got that piece of land behind the library, the new library. It's
That
way
could
up in the
be-
sky.
That could be the public-private partnership, if that ever were come to fruition.
Did you see that there's a fundraiser in Greenfield coming up?
Mm-mm.
It's being sponsored. It's being billed as Stop Northfield Mountain, no batteries in Wendell, no solar in Shutesbury. And there's a whole event revolving around it. And there's 5 different organizations that are supporting it, that are sponsoring it. And of course, Shutesbury Solar is one of them.
Nice. Anyway.
All right. So, George, you made some changes as we were talking. You'll share that with me. Anything else that folks want to suggest in terms of modifications to this report? Are we good to go?
This is good. Thank you, George.
Looks
Right.
good.
Yes.
Thanks,
very much.
George.
You're welcome. Oh, and
And
AJ,
Yeah, go ahead.
like I said, I'll send you the Word and the PDF. You know how to convert a Word to a PDF if you end up having to make changes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Sure.
You're welcome. I'm
And
happy to do
I'll,
it. This is very important.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that, because I think there was a little issue last year, right, Becky? We got to make sure that our documents get,
Sent
I guess,
in Word.
posted in the right place. And what was it, copied? I can't remember. There was something that happened last year
The
where,
school budget wasn't there.
is that what it was? Okay.
It wasn't,
In any event,
well, and the school has already promised me 50 copies. Do you think that's enough?
But also to put it online, that's the other grump we got.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
50 copies is plenty.
yeah.
yeah, that's good.
And we're only gonna have Jackie until noon and no other administrators.
Okay.
So we moved the budget up to number 3.
All right. So I will circulate the revised annual report for our budget presentation, so everybody has that. Speaking of, I ought to reach out to Paul and just go over any sort of process things. So I'm trying to recall. I think in the past he's solicited questions in advance of the meeting, and I think that's a useful step. So maybe I'll ask him to do that again. I think he usually like posts a message through town announce maybe, and on Nextdoor, like send me your questions or something like that, right? Yeah.
Really need him to do town announce first, because he tends to be
Okay.
on Nextdoor, but it's not supported by town government, so I gotta make sure. he does.
Okay. So I'll reach out to him tomorrow and ask him to do that. And then, as I recall, he does a little bit of consolidation, so we don't like, the same question doesn't get asked 3 times in slightly different ways. And so he'll do a little organizing. We'll probably go through those. I mean, I think I'll do like a 10-minute walk through the annual report to start. Then Paul will share any questions he's received in advance of the meeting, and then we'll open it up to folks that are attending the meeting, right? I mean, is that anything else that we need to discuss?
We need to get the word out there. So sometimes the homepage of the website, town website refers to another page and then the documents, which would be the budget and the annual report. And Paul should get a copy of the annual report emailed to him so that people are preparing.
Okay. All right. So I'll reach out to Paul tomorrow. And I'll ask him to put the word out on town announce and then on whatever other means he usually pursues. Okay. And in terms of responding to questions, like I'll do kind of a walkthrough of the annual report. But in terms of responding, I wanted to encourage everybody to respond to questions as they come up. Like just, raise your hand and, I'll call. I mean, I guess Paul will call on you, but it shouldn't be just me responding to questions. I think it'd be good for people to kind of hear from everybody. So we'll just, we'll see how it goes. And I think it's been a successful activity in the past. So
One thing, AJ.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing about annual meeting that you did last year that I don't think we're going to be able to do this year is you talked about what other towns are doing. Remember, you gave examples of what other towns are doing, but because we're so early this year, those other towns really aren't in the paper other than the conversations about the regional schools.
Yeah, good point. I wonder if I can at least, like, so I guess what'll be available? A article from Leverett will know them, like their budget, right? But that's probably about it in terms of our neighbors. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because last year we were so late. They're all after us now.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on either annual report or
I think it's important to
budget
say that the regional
presentation?
school,
Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
yeah, I think it's important, even though we don't have a lot of specific data, we can say that the chapter 70 money is causing this problem in all the regional schools. But like Belchertown's not a regional school, so it's not just the regional schools. This is a problem across the state. I don't want to take all the heat for it. Everybody's got to figure this out.
George?
No, Susie's exactly right. And I would just expand on that, make sure that people are clear. It's all the COVID money that has been regaled upon all of us is now disappearing, and it's put everybody in this position. Also, salary increases, the other towns, East Hampton and Northampton, have specifically stated, and we know it's true for Amherst, teachers are getting higher salaries now, and that's having an impact. In the case of Northampton, and I think East Hampton might have, but I know Northampton is also saying the loss of school choice funds is hurting them. There's, if we keep undermining the budget, we're going to lose students to charter schools. And it's just gonna exacerbate the problem. So I think those are points that need to be kind of included in that conversation.
Susie?
That was one of the things that Aaron and I talked about. We've often crabbed about choice, but I think charter is a much bigger whole. And as we find our public schools can't meet some of the same goals it did, people fleeing to charter schools, and Aaron was saying charter schools are here, but we can start saying the state needs to fund it differently, and also to make those charter schools more responsible and more monitored for what they do. So I believe our next effort isn't so much about choice. It's really about charter, because those are our public dollars funding private options. And I think we need to start working on that. Maybe after this budget season, we can start figuring out what it looks like and how to push on it, because that's something he said, like down in Belchertown, the nearest charter school is like the Chinese immersion. He said people don't go there. So charter doesn't affect everybody the same way. If it's a lot of options, then and people can drive their kids there, that's part of what's drawing down our things. And we could maybe look at the numbers for that and start pressing that button.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I think the last thing we needed to do tonight was look at a couple of sets of minutes. So maybe we can do that really quickly before we wrap up. So we've got April 3rd. And so we'll start there.
So I'll make a move to a motion to accept the minutes from April 3rd.
I'll second that.
Where is it?
All right. Did anybody have any questions or suggestions from the April 3rd minutes?
We went through those, right?
Okay.
But then we had a couple of things we had to update, or
Nope.
we didn't
No, I
go
don't
through
think
these at all?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
They were on the agenda for last week's meeting, but we never got to them
okay.
Maybe that's
because we were in with the select board.
Yeah. All right. So I don't see any hands. So I think the motion's been seconded, so we can vote.
Arvanitis, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Oh, Stein, aye.
Walton abstained. I wasn't at this meeting.
Okay. And then we have minutes from the joint select board.
With the select board, yeah, April 9th.
Yeah, April 9th. So I'll pull those up. Okay. And I think this is mostly just official kind of recording of our votes. Did anybody have any questions or suggestions?
No, nothing.
So I'll make a
Make a
motion to
motion to
approve,
pass these, make a motion to pass these minutes from April 9th.
I'll second that.
I have a typo.
Becky?
Okay,
I don't think, does Weisenbaum have a T in it? It does? Or not?
I can look at my addresses. Oh, she's not a elected, she's not a official resident. Right, she's not a voter. Wait a minute, what is she? Is she in here?
No,
Well,
she
was she attending?
didn't.
Yeah, I know, that's not, I can look up, I can cross-reference it, but maybe I can't because she. Yeah, her daughter Zoe, no T, you're right.
She puts in enough public records requests and open meeting law violations. I know her.
Mhm.
That's why I know.
Okay, I'll fix that.
Hmm.
All right, anything else? All right, George,
Overnight aside.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Stein, I.
Walt and I.
Right. Okay. Anything we need to discuss before we wrap up? We're not gonna look at the expense report just because, I haven't had a chance to review it. But if everybody can take a look at that, and we ought to discuss it, I guess, at some point. I'm trying to think of when we would. Our next meeting is the budget
30th.
information session. Yeah, so probably the meeting after our next meeting after annual town meeting. So
So I did
let's
post-
just
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead, Becky.
post you for the 20th, because there might be need for deliberation. So I posted a meeting for
Oh,
the 20th, and I posted annual town meeting in case there's reason to confer. Given
okay,
the,
great. Oh, you mean for 20th before towns? Okay, great. Perfect.
those two meetings are posted, and now I gotta do Wednesday, the 24th.
Okay.
And then are we
great.
agreeing that
Alright,
the
and
next
I'll-
regular one is the 30th of April, the Tuesday after town meeting? To keep in sync with the select board?
I think that makes sense.
I think the assessors are scheduled for that night. Is that true, April? Do you know?
Oh. I'm not sure. Let me,
Well, it turns out I'm flying home that day, so I actually won't be able to attend the 30th, but that's okay.
we'll make it work.
They meet on Wednesday?
Yeah,
I usually do, but I got it on my calendar for some reason as Monday
there
the
was
30th.
something. I will double check. Not remembering.
Maybe it's in the minutes that Leslie
Yes,
sent.
that's what I
can
was
look
gonna
real
check.
quick. The last meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe just here.
So AJ, who's going to be at the information meeting? There are only 4 of us, right?
I'll be there.
I believe so, right? Yep.
Susie will be there.
No, it doesn't
It
say.
is
The
April.
24th, I will be here on the
No.
24th.
So Susie, April,
Mm-hmm.
myself, you,
That's it.
Jim Walton. That's it, right? Jim Walton, you're not around. Yeah. So
I can make the info
those 4.
meeting. I just won't be able to make the annual.
Oh, you
town
can.
meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's right. Okay. So yeah, the 5 of us.
I'll be,
yeah.
so which meeting were you asking about? Because I can make the info meeting.
Oh, thank goodness.
Oh, you
Yeah, I'll
can.
be up-
Good.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
make the 24th. I'll be back
Oh,
on
good.
Monday.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I'm gone
good
for the
news. Okay.
weekend. I'll be back on Monday, and then I'm flying out on the 26th, and I'll be back on the 1st.
All right. So it's just Bob we won't have for the 24th. Yeah.
Yeah, we won't have Bob until May 5th. I think he's coming back.
Okay.
Hope he's
All right.
enjoying his visit. Yes,
Time for the summer vacation.
Mm-hmm.
right.
The leaves are gonna be on the trees then.
George, I got to reach out to you. I'm heading to Nepal, and I want to get your recommendations for must-see places.
Really?
Where in
Yeah.
Nepal are you going?
Yeah, what's your plan?
Well, I have to be in, actually the day of the annual town meeting. I'm going over there to Kathmandu for several days. And then after that, I'll just go out, explore, do some exploring.
Oh, talk to Jim. He knows the country better than I do.
Yeah,
What's that?
Jim knows.
yeah, I've been there 3 times, so.
In Kathmandu?
Well, and the country itself, but especially.
Oh,
in
okay, yeah,
Kathmandu.
you, also, I reach out to you too.
Yeah, when I went, I was in Kathmandu, but I went out to the Everest trekking route up to Gokyo. So I don't know if you're going to be able to have time to squeeze that in. That was a whole adventure, a
Well,
month-long adventure.
how long are you gonna be in Kathmandu?
About a week, or just under a week in
Okay.
Kathmandu, and then several days in the country, out in the country.
Yeah, Pokhara might be better for him.
Yeah, Pokhara, definitely.
What's the name again?
I'm gonna
Pokhara,
head
it's
out,
in
guys.
All right.
Western
Okay.
Nepal.
All right.
All right.
All right.
See some of
Let's-
you on Saturday.
Hey,
Yes.
AJ, good luck
All
on
right.
Saturday, everybody.
Yeah, we'll
Thank
see
you.
y'all
All right.
Saturday, except George.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.